Welcome back to another update in the state champs Anvil race presented by Hungry Howie's. We are now in the final weeks of the award we created back in 2018 to recognize the best lineman or linebacker in the state. Now, unlike Mr. Football, which is easier in my mind to recognize the top players, determining the top linemen in the state or linebackers, that's more of a challenge. But like our Mr. Football Award, we use the same criteria to determine our champion. The Hall of Fame coach, Tim Beckler, has been breaking down our candidates for 2 years now. Coach, the criteria is on the screen, so why don't you read off the formula?
Okay, so it's 30% performance throughout the season. So basically what we're looking for is, anybody can have a good night, but can you sustain that? Can you be consistent? 20% is level of competition. How do you play against great teams and other great players? That's what we want to see. 20% online vote winner. That keeps them in the conversation. They automatically go to the Final Four, which is huge when it comes down to nitty-gritty time when we have to make that selection.
Absolutely.
15% is big game performance. We want to know how did you do in your rivalry game this year, your league championship game, and obviously in the playoffs right now. 10% on team success. This is huge to me. It's only 10%, but right now we're in the third round of the playoffs. This is where we're seeing you against great teams, great players. So it's important that we get to see you and how well you do in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and oftentimes weather can be a factor. It's standing out for your team when your team needs it most.
Absolutely. And then 5% for a highly recruited athlete. Now, thank goodness we have a committee of guys that get together and we argue and debate to break it down to that Final Four, then ultimately pick the winner. And it's only 5%. It's not huge, but sometimes when it's nitty-gritty time, that 5% of, this kid's going to Central, this kid's going to Notre Dame, that does weigh into the decision sometimes.
Absolutely, and like we talked about in our Mr. Football conversation, these guys have bullseyes on their back. They have extra expectations because of where they are projected to play at the next level. Teams depend them. Teams game plan against those guys. So, sometimes there's a little bit extra pressure on those gentlemen. And I think usually in our Anvil Award, a lot of the guys are pretty highly recruited.
Exactly, and their opponents, they know, hey, that kid's going to Notre Dame, that kid's going to Michigan State. Well, I'm going to prove myself against them, so you're right.
Punch him in the mouth.
Exactly right.
What do you specifically look for that makes a lineman or linebacker great? And let's talk about both positions because, again, it is a little more subjective here when we're looking at this. But you, as a coach for so many years, talk about what you look for a lineman and then a linebacker that set them apart from the rest. We're talking about the top 10 in the state.
Absolutely. For offensive linemen specifically, I want to see a dominating run blocker, a guy that puts people on their backs. But I also want to see technique and footwork. I want to see if they can pull and how they block in the second level as they're pulling through. I want to see how they combo block and work up and get vertical movement off their defensive linemen and then push up to the second level. Those are skillful things, and obviously pass blocking comes into play. Some teams pass a lot more than others, but they need to be able to have great technique and not give up sacks. For defensive linemen, a little bit different. I want to see a great get off the line of scrimmage. I want to see them attack blockers. It's called block destruction. What happens when they get base blocked? How do they attack that blocker? Most great players get double teamed. How do they handle the double team? Do they get knocked off the football, or do they split it or destroy it on the line of scrimmage? Obviously, pass rush is huge. Do they have a great move? Do they have great technique? Are they getting pressures on the quarterback, hitting him, sacking him? If they don't get home, are they getting batted balls? And then obviously, they've got to find the football. Are they making big plays behind the line of scrimmage? For linebackers, the great ones are natural, and you can see it. They have a natural savvy about them to read and react and find the football. They're sideline to sideline players. They can avoid blocks because of their speed and quickness and their feel. But they also, sometimes they got to pop in there and block or attack a bigger blocker and snap them and get rid of them, and that's called block destruction too. And the great ones can do that easily with their hands, and it's, you know, it's all coachable, but the really good ones make it look so fast and so simple. So I'm looking for things like that. And then obviously, are they making plays in the open field, in the passing game? Are they a great explosive tackler? Yeah. So that's my criteria.
You saw that the winner of the online vote plays a role in determining our champion. Traverse City Central's Josh Burnham, case in point, leading with well over 6,500 votes. Now here's a guy who plays the entire game. Is not only does he light up the competition at linebacker, he's also the quarterback, which is crazy. If he holds on, he will automatically hold a spot in our Final Four. 3 others will be selected by the Anvil committee, and while the online vote winner will have a 20% advantage over everyone else to win the Anvil, all 4 will have a great shot at the hardware. Voting ends Monday, November 22nd at noon. We'll then reveal our Final Four just a few days later. The champ will be named the following week. You ready for the stretch run, Coach?
I'm ready. This is exciting time right now.
Absolutely. All right, another update coming next week where we will specifically break down the remaining candidates in the race. Don't miss it.